Hello. Karina here, coach and mentor for highly sensitive people and creator of the program Synchronize Your Life. Welcome to the Feel Lighter in 21 Days experiment. Today is day 8, and day 8, the experiment is to check your ego. So, why are we here? Why do we all want to feel lighter? Okay, I was thinking about that question earlier this week, and one of the biggest things that came to me was, well, if we're going to talk about strategies for feeling lighter, it's probably a good idea that we talk about the things that make us feel heavy. Okay, so a big part of feeling lighter is knowing what makes you feel heavy so that you can shift it, so that you don't stay attached to it and you can easily flow through it and move through it rather than grasp onto it, thinking that it's your life preserver. So a question that I have for you is this: who is driving the car of your life? Is it your ego, or is it your awareness? So ego, kind of a buzzword in the personal growth field. Maybe you're familiar with it, maybe you're not. But I want to share with you that, to me, ego is not a bad thing. Ego is actually a core part of your sense of self, okay? What makes you you, what makes you unique. So if you know about the chakras, it's all about your core sense of your individuality. The thing is, your ego can get you into a lot of trouble if you let the ego drive the bus, okay, or drive the car. The thing that keeps your ego in check is your awareness. I remember at the beginning of my journey, I made a commitment to expand my awareness. Okay, at the time I had no idea what ego was. I mean, I did know in regards to the psychological definition of it with Freudian definition. But for me, I right away from the beginning knew that I was committed to expanding my awareness. I knew that this was the most important thing if I wanted to live a great life, if I wanted to feel connected to myself, and I wanted to experience all that life had to offer. Okay, I saw so many people around me get stuck and stay exactly where they were in a very, suffering type of comfort zone, something that felt familiar. Okay, even though they weren't happy with it, it felt safe, but only because it was familiar. But for me, yes, okay, I was at a younger age, early 20s when I started my journey. My commitment was to expand my awareness, so I wanted to experience all that life had to offer. In order to do that, I had to keep my mind open. So through the process, now that I've gotten a little bit older, actually I will say last year was probably the first year that I experienced the most amount of ego running the show. So for those of you who don't know, last year my father passed away, and this was also the year that I moved back to New York, okay, a place that growing up, it felt very challenging to live on Long Island. It just felt like I felt very different. The environment didn't seem like it suited me. So moving back to New York and then having to manage a new way of living with my family, with my father not being there, felt really hard. And all I wanted to do was feel safe. I didn't feel safe from the world. I didn't feel safe from just the drop of a hat just dropping dead. Literally, that's what happened. My father, he had a heart attack. So a lot of me, there was a big part of me that did not feel safe, knowing that I could just die at any moment, or anyone in my life could die at any moment. So that was the year that I experienced the most amount of resistance. I let ego run the show every day. I resisted moving my body. I resisted exercising. I resisted setting boundaries with my food-sensitive foods such as gluten, dairy, and sugar. I resisted being out of the house and meeting people. I resisted, I resisted a lot. A lot of the things that I once gave myself permission to do and felt really easy, all of a sudden it became really hard. So now that I've been getting out of that state of resistance, I've been seeing through my awareness the thing that is going to keep my ego in check, that how much I was letting ego run the show. Okay, and actually I will admit there was a part of me, so I consider myself a really self-aware person. So there was a part of me that the whole time I knew that ego was running the show. And I was the one to give the ego the car keys. I said, here you go, ego. You get a try. Okay, we're going to see what life is like when you drive the bus. So I consciously, yes, maybe I didn't say this out loud to anyone, but I said this to myself. I consciously let ego run the show. And what happened? Emotionally, I fell apart. Relationships started to dwindle because I wasn't showing up as my best self. Not that I have to be my best self all the time with my friends, but I was starting to just always be that negative Nancy, always be that person that was negative, Debbie Downer, seeing the negative, always seeing what was going wrong. Okay, who wants to be around that, right? I don't really want to be around that. Obviously, it happens to everyone, but to have that be your frequency and vibration every day, to be so stuck and other people can't help you and you're not really open to being helped, it's a really hard place to be at, especially if you're a friend. So I didn't like how I was showing up in my relationships, and I didn't like how my body was reacting. So right now I have the weakest core. My stomach is the weakest it's ever been in my entire life. So that's another thing. I was not moving my body, not eating properly. So knowing that I gave ego permission to not journal as consistently I was in the past, to not do my EFT, to not connect with people and put myself out there, okay, and to just see myself, my situation is like, oh, well, this is it, all right? I guess we're just going to live in New York forever, and this is it, okay? Like that, it was very much this apathetic feeling of depression. This is it energy, so what's the point? Okay, if this is it and this is not great, well, I guess I got to make it work, okay? Of course, I'm a firm believer, prosper where you're planted, but taking that to the point where I stopped letting myself say what I wanted and then create my life and do things that brought me joy, that is where it started to get really ugly. So since the beginning of this year, I've been pulling back from letting ego run the show, and I've been letting my awareness step forward again. My awareness to be the one that is directing the ship in the direction, because I knew that if I was going to continue to let ego run this life, I was going to fall and crash really hard, really fast. So the question that we want to bring forward here when we're talking about ego and when we're talking about checking your ego is to ask yourself, what am I resisting? Okay, so my business mentor has shared with me that the one thing that you are resisting in your life is often the thing that's going to bring you to the next level, to bring you closer to that exact thing and that exact experience of being and living who you want to be and where you want to be in your life. Okay, but if you see that thing, this heavy thing in front of you, as something that you want to move away from rather than move towards and give space to, then it's likely that you're going to stay stuck. Okay, staying stuck is ego's favorite game. Ego likes, again, to make it seem like we are safe. So again, ego likes to keep us in a familiar state and say, oh no, everything's fine, everything's great. Let's not change because I don't like change. Okay, ego does not like change. Why is ego important? What I've learned is that over the years, I actually tried to also reduce my ego. So I've done a lot of experiments over the last 10 years. I've tried to reduce the pull of my ego, and in the process, I became more of a people pleaser. I started to do the things that people wanted me to do because I didn't really know what I wanted. Also, I wasn't standing up for myself. Okay, so there are certain pieces that are really key that ego is in place for. There's a reason why we have ego in our life. One of the things is that if something is terribly wrong with your life, or even the world the way it is, your ego is the thing that gets angry and gets you angry to get your butt up and take action, to do something different and make a change because this is not okay. Okay, but interestingly, ego also might, on the flip side, tell you, oh yeah, go change that, but don't, because it's hard and it's scary and you might fail. and you might get hurt, and people might judge you, and people might criticize you. Ego reminds you of all those things. And so what do? You go into hiding. You shut down your voice, you stop saying what you want, you go back into your patterns of people pleasing, pushing through everything of what your awareness is trying to poke through and just tell you, listen to me, please, I'm here, everything's okay, just breathe. I have the next step for you. If you would just calm your mind down for 1 second, I will land that guidance. So the way I like to see our mind and our inner guidance system, our awareness, is like a airplane runway. So this analogy comes from the book Be Here Now by Ram Dass, and he shared that your awareness is kind of like a plane. Your inner guidance system is a plane flying around, and the plane wants to land. The plane wants to give you that message and tell you what your next step is. But ego are these people all over the runway looking at the sky. Where is it? Where is it? Where's the plane? Where's the message, right? Oh, there's no message. You start hearing people fighting, right? This is all going on in your head. But really, you just need to move away from the runway so that the plane can land. The plane's not going to land if you are on the runway, if you have all of this chatter and all of this confusion and manipulation and over-analysis happening in your mind. Okay? So we clear the runway. We check our ego. We tell it to go sit down, go in the corner, because our inner guidance system of awareness wants to come through with the clarity of what the next step is. Because really, that's all we can ever know is the next step. And that's really all we need to know. Because the lesson here in this life is to be present. Not to know what your 10 steps ahead is. That's you trying to control, and then you're right back in ego territory. Okay, let's stop right there. Let's take a nice deep breath. All right, so I want to give you some examples that I wrote down of ways you can catch ego and check your ego, okay? So how do you do that? You become aware, okay? What does it look like for ego to be driving? So I wrote these down. Let me get that out. Okay, so how do you know if ego is running the show? There's a few patterns, a few behaviors that you're likely doing. So we have about 9 or 10 here. So the first thing is explaining yourself, okay? So ego takes things personally. And when you take something personally, then you feel the need to explain yourself and explain why you're right or why you did something, instead of just owning it that you made a mistake and just doing it, okay? So if you forgot something, instead of explaining yourself, just go do it, okay? You don't need to explain yourself. That's only what ego wants you to do. The next thing is distracting yourself. So we talked about distraction in other videos. If you find yourself trying to avoid or procrastinate, which is another one, then this is likely ego. And this is likely resistance. So anytime you're procrastinating or you're avoiding, it's likely that you are resisting something. So I have my community mastermind program, right? And sometimes someone new will come to the group, and I always start the program off with a 3-hour VIP day with me to get us really clear about where they are in their journey, what their goals are, what they want to achieve, okay? And it's also a check-in, it's an assessment of all the beliefs and feelings of where they are right now. So by the end of the 6 months, they can check in and be like, wow, this is what has shifted for me. So sometimes if someone comes into my community right off the bat, if they're in a space of resistance because they are so used to having ego run the show, then they might procrastinate sending their VIP day form to me. They're going to procrastinate answering these really powerful questions that will help them become aware and develop the clarity that is literally going to change their life, transform their current situation. Okay, so ego doesn't want you to change, but the awareness is what keeps you in check so that you can continue to take action and follow opportunities and experiences that will help you develop, okay, help you expand and grow. Because really this is what our heart wants. Our heart always wants us to expand. our heart never wants to tell us no. If something's telling you no, then it's likely not your intuition. It's likely not your inner guidance system. Either it'll tell you yes, or like I said in another video, maybe just wait was something I got. But always know that if it's a clear, if it's resistance, a resistance to something that's going to help you grow, it's likely that it's ego. Okay, so what are some other examples of resistance? Avoiding challenging feelings. Okay, we talked about that in another video. We want to lean in. Forgetting to do something. Okay, kind of like procrastination, but literally I call this ego mind amnesia, where you know you have to do something, but you forget it. Or you experience something so powerful or something amazing happen, a great celebration, and then you forget the celebration. Why? Because ego wants to remind you that there's nothing good ever happening. Okay, ego mind amnesia. That's very important and is what is so connected to your resistance of continuing to take action. Next thing is, I already talked about this, saying no to growth-oriented opportunities. Like I said, your inner guidance is always wanting you to expand. We did not come into this world to live in a small box and to live in this box safety comfort zone. That is not why our heart brought you here. Your heart came here, you came here to experience all that life has to offer, and to experiment, and to try different things, and to learn about yourself and explore. Because this life is short, if you haven't noticed. Maybe you think we have many years, but in the big scale of things, we have a very small time on this earth. And make sure you remember that, because oftentimes we think we have more time than we do, so we say, I'll do it later. But no, time is happening now. This is the only time you have, because like I said, your life can be done tomorrow. So check yourself if you're saying no to growth-oriented opportunities. Okay, next one is taking it personal when someone gives you constructive feedback. So this goes back to explaining yourself. So this was a common one with me and my husband. He would trigger my ego so bad. So he's a personality type. I believe he's an INTJ, so he's definitely a thinker and a judger. And as someone who's a feeler and a perceiver, anytime he gave me feedback, it sounded very critical. It sounded like he was putting me down and telling me that I was basically a piece of shit, or at least that's how I felt. Like I was stupid, I didn't know anything, I wasn't good enough. Okay, that is not what he ever said, but that's how I feel. Why? Because I got triggered. Okay, I took it personal. I made it about me rather than maybe something about him. Maybe he's giving me feedback because it's really about him, not me. Or if it was genuine feedback and I wasn't open to receive it, my awareness needed to keep me open. And I've been practicing that a lot recently. And I say thank you for your feedback. And if I need to think about it, I'll think about it, but I'm not going to explain myself. So last thing here of an example of resistance. Being reactive and getting defensive. Okay, so one of the best tips that I learned in my journey of psychology is when someone is getting defensive, it's because subconsciously they know that they're wrong. Okay, same thing with you. If you ever get stuck in being defensive, it's because a part of you know that you're wrong. If you're right, you don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to defend yourself. If anything, you want to just let this person say what they need to say and hold space for them, because you have it and you know what is right. Okay, and whether or not you try to convince them otherwise, it might not change their mind, but you knowing what your truth is really is all that matters. Okay, so keep that in mind, whether it's you or someone else. If you're getting defensive, likely you're resisting something, okay, but also there's a part of you that probably knows that the person is right. Okay, and this actually happened in a mastermind group that I had, where one of the mastermind members called another person out and said, hey, you haven't been working on this goal that you talked about several weeks ago. What's going on there? And all of a sudden, the other mastermind member got really defensive and said, well, I was doing this and that, and, it was just like this next, explaining himself, getting defensive, rather than taking a deep breath and being like, you know what? You're so right. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you for calling me out. I'm going to look at this and I'm going to come back. Okay, I'm going to come back to what this is. All right, so where are you resisting? Now that we have a little bit more awareness around what it means to resist, hopefully now you can keep your ego in check. Okay, let's breathe that in. Let's take a nice deep breath. Okay, I don't know about you, but taking these deep breaths, sometimes I'll go back and listen to some of my videos to make sure the connection was good. I take a deep breath every time I'm listening to the video, and every single time it was exactly a moment where I needed a deep breath. So I hope you're enjoying these deep breaths as much as I am. So one more thing that I wanted to share about all of this. Okay, so why would someone ever work in a mastermind group or hire a coach? Okay, so maybe you're here because you are a coach and this is inspiring for you to learn about ways to feel lighter, right? Maybe you've never heard of coaching before, or maybe you've done a little bit of coaching, okay? No matter where you are in your journey, I want to share with you 3 reasons why people work with me and or enroll in my mastermind community, okay? 3 reasons. First reason is to help expand awareness, okay? So like we talked about today, it is actually quite hard to resist the pull of the ego when he or she is triggering you, okay? Even as I was talking to someone today, and I was telling them about, well, my ego is telling me this. I was had awareness enough to know my ego is telling me this. And then the person responded back to me, well, see how easy it is to get that pull in by your ego. Okay, so she automatically kept me in check for me, because oftentimes we don't realize when our ego is pulling us. Okay, we don't realize it. So having people around you who are going to be either more aware of you or at least on their journey, committed to expanding their awareness and checking their ego at the door, that's what's going to be so important to you, for you. So whether it's in a group mastermind program, it is a coach, or it is a group of friends who are so committed to their journey, okay, and you consistently get together. No matter what it is, having other people around you who are going to hold that space for you and help you develop your awareness and keep your ego in check, this is what's going to help develop you. It's going to give you permission to consistently question and challenge your ego and your resistance so that you can keep living, you can keep growing, and you don't get into these really limiting stuck points in your life. Okay, so second piece around why you would hire a coach or be in this mastermind group is to, like I said, expand your awareness. Okay, oftentimes we think that there's 1 or 2 options. But when you're able to bring your challenges into a group of people who are also highly committed to their growth, they give you other options and they open you up to new possibilities that you had no idea existed before. Maybe it's a new way of saying something, it's a new way of doing something, okay? Or it's a new way of being. It's a new, just different, okay? Because if you're stuck, you always want to ask yourself, how can I do things differently? And your coach, your mastermind group, are the people who are going to help you shift and do things differently. Okay, and the third reason why you would be in a mastermind group or hire a coach is because, well, at least this is the way I work. Maybe not all coaches are like this. There are some coaches who are like, here's my cookie cutter version of, something. Now be this, achieve this, okay? Here's this number of success of finances that I made, or this is like the lifestyle that I live. Now do this. The coaching that I do is focused on empowerment. Okay, it is guiding you back within to your internal guidance system. Your internal voice is the most important thing. I don't have all the answers for you, but I do know that if I bring you back to yourself and we clear and check that ego, your inner voice, your awareness will be so clear on what your next steps are. That is always going to be the best thing for you. And anyone who tries to convince you otherwise and put you into another cookie cutter version of you, or give you another mask to wear, or become another color of a chameleon, you want to be aware of that, okay? And you want to make sure that you're discerning what is going to be for your highest good, okay? So this is something to look out for. So if you would like to consider having a conversation about the Relationship and Leadership Development Mastermind program that I have, make sure you go to my website, synchronizewithin.com, click on the tab that says SYL Mastermind Community, and submit your form, your clarity session form. Okay, once you submit this form, then we can have a clarity session and we can have that conversation. I'm going to hold space for you to share your vision, to share what challenges you have, the things that are blocking you from getting there, and we can talk about different options on how you can receive support. All right, one more deep breath. Wonderful. So I'll also leave the link for the clarity session form connected to this video. Again, if you have any friends that you would like to join and welcome into this experiment, welcome them on in. I'd love to share in this experience with you and with them. All right, so today's experiment, day 8, is to check your ego. Check your ego. Play with this. This is a whole new ball game when you're checking your ego, okay? And you're letting your awareness be the driver of your life. Okay, let me know how it goes. Let me know if you have any questions about anything I talked about today. This is a very intense topic. Okay, so please post any questions you have. And I look forward to speaking with you tomorrow. All right, I hope you have a great rest of your day. I will talk to you soon. All right, and let me close this out. Okay, bye-bye.